There we go. Okay, so we are going to start exactly in four, three, two. Hey, everybody, this is Jim Hague. Welcome to another episode of Truth Seeking Souls, where we talk about spirituality, about basically everything about the inner depth of the human soul. And the way I do it is I go around the world and find people who do just that. And right now, I have the honor and the pleasure of introducing Mr. Lawrence Elliard from the land down under. How
Hey,
you
hey,
doing,
how we
sir?
doing?
Hi. Or should I say, how we doing, mate? Yeah, everything
How we
good?
doing, mate? The amount of
Okay.
times I have people from the States going, g'day, mate, in their best Aussie accent, it's very funny.
Well, I
Yeah,
first of all, I want to say right off the bat for our audience because we want to make sure the website is lawrenceelliard.com. That's Lawrence ELLYARD.com. And you'll find a
yeah,
whole slew of information about Mr. Elliard and what he does and what he has to offer. And his books are really what fascinates me. I'll tell you, are they available? Like right here, Secrets of Spiritual Marketing. Reiki, I guess you offer a lot of that. Are these available? I see they're on Amazon, so are they
yeah.
available in Kindle?
Yeah, you can find those all on Amazon and in
Mhm.
various formats. So yeah, I wrote those books quite a little while ago, but we have more in the making. And I think, people say, "Oh, why did you write like 9 books?" And it's like, well, I had a lot to say, had a lot to share. So I think it's a great medium. There's something about, actually going through a book too, like in your hands versus you know, watching something online or whatever it is. So, there's something about that sort of old school approach of doing these things, which is really powerful.
And I think
And
the first thing I want to read is about the spirit of water. That sounds
yeah,
very,
yeah.
very fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, the I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Masuro Emoto. He passed away a few years ago now, but
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
was really addressing this bridge between consciousness and the effect on matter, and in particular, the effect of water. So,
Hmm.
for those that aren't familiar with his work, he would take, you know, distilled water or just tap water and then play music to the water or would speak to it or would write a word like peace or love or something like that or harmony, and then he would freeze these droplets and then look at them as they were starting to dissolve or come more to room temperature under a dark field electron microscope in a freezer room. So it's a mind-blowing setup to even do this, right?
What the bleep do we know?
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's I think what the that those experiments pointed to was the effect that our minds, our consciousness have a deep impact, our thoughts, our words, you know,
Hmm.
and a lot of us know this, right? But it was definitely a great reminder to visually depict that things that are expressed in a harmonious and loving way has a beautiful structure,
Hmm. Right.
and things that are of discord and negativity have a distorted structure, so that's what it speaks to. And when we look at that, a high percentage of our physical bodies are made of water, then obviously the thoughts we have, the talk, the music we play, all these different things, can obviously have a fairly deep impact, both positively or negatively in our lives. And
And
when we talk about talking, or speech, it's not just about what we say outwardly, it's also the inner talk, what we say to ourselves. Like we might be the nicest person, but inwardly we're sort of putting ourselves down, saying, oh, I'm stupid, or I can't believe I did that, or whatever it is, right? And this is a gateway to, creating more problems, not only for our peace of mind, but ultimately our health, I believe.
And it's
Um,
hard, I would imagine, in today's day, right now, with all that's happening in the world. Now, you live in Australia, but I'll tell you, the United States is in a quagmire of all this negative stuff. I mean, so many things that are happening. The world just seems like it's turning against us. And
yeah,
so it would ma imagine. So let me ask you this. So you are the founder and chairman of the International Institute of Complementary Therapists, or IICT. So is
yes,
this the kind of, like you just mentioned, you enlightened us for about 5 minutes there about water and the impact, and of course we're 95% or 98% water. our thoughts. Is that the kind of work that you do? Is that what your organization is all about?
Well, we're a global accreditation body, so we provide the official seal of approval to all the different wellness modalities and practitioners all over the world. So there's over 1,400 natural therapy occupations we represent, which is the largest.
Wow.
And
Wow.
most people go like, I didn't know there was like more than 14, but there's
Yeah,
1,400.
that's what I'm saying. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's many different approaches to health and well-being and everything right through to, longevity and yeah, all the different, spa, beauty treatments, yeah, cognitive-based
Hmm.
therapies, physical therapies, you name it, is we cover the whole industry and have done for, coming up to 24 years this year. And that really started out like I was a educator in the space, and then I was having my graduates coming through my trainings, and then they're like, well, "Where do I go to get accreditation? Where can I get,
Hmm.
insurance cover so I can go out into the workplace and offer my services?" So there wasn't really a body that covered the whole industry back then at all, and so I was like, everyone was saying, "Oh, I wish someone would just create an all-encompassing accreditation body that covered the whole thing." And I was like, at some point, there was kind of the penny drop for me. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm that someone. So then that's how I started that. And initially, we just offered it in Australia, and it's grown now to hundreds of
Yeah.
countries, and it's really expanded out globally since then. So yeah, it's a really great contribution, I think, to aid credibility across the industry, so people take it a bit more seriously because a lot of people, sort of put that in the camp of, oh, that's all woo woo, and it's not credible. And yet, a lot of these therapies are actually incredibly life changing and powerfully transformative, And so it's important to vet and find the right people that feel trust to work with. But a lot of
Hmm.
these people, obviously doing incredible work all over the place. So, yeah, there's great opportunity to support these wonderful practitioners to have impact in the world.
And what is the goal? Like, what is the mission behind this? You started the first 5 minutes talking about the inner mind and the messages that not only we receive from the outside world, the external stimuli, but also the internal stimuli. But I would imagine the internal stimuli is a reflection of what we allow inside our heads. Can you explain a little bit about that? Why people are so
Yeah,
negative?
well, this is it, so it's really important to first know that we have the opportunity to create our heaven or our hell in between our ears, right? Like with the thoughts that we have, the emotions that we hold, and that we're the ones that are in charge of our joy or our pain. So that's firstly, it's important to know that we're in charge of those outcomes, and
Mhm.
obviously then how we show up in life or the ways that we contribute or the flip side, if we're being really, difficult to other people in the world, then obviously that we're going to get that negative feedback from
Yeah.
people, right? So yeah, there's this idea that we can certainly have a meaningful impact with what we say, what we do. It really does matter. And we know that for ourselves, right? We do something that's really uplifting and positive. We get a lot of joy from that as well. Yeah. And, if we are having a bad day, then that's going to rub off on people as well. So it's really this idea that knowing that we are powerfully creating all the time, then we should be mindful. What are we saying? What are we doing? What are those actions that we take and how
But
that
isn't
informs.
that a constant struggle though? Because I mean, I don't know anybody that's 100% happy.
No,
Fortunately, I
for
don't know
sure.
anybody who's 100% miserable, but there is, we get these things. What does one do? Okay, what would you tell your clients or your coaches? What do you tell, how do, like say for instance, I'm just I'm so sick and I'm a teacher. I'm a high school teacher. And I
Right.
get a lot of garbage, a lot of bickering from high school students and they're negative or they weigh you down. What would you tell me?
Well, I would first, start with your own backyard, rather than giving improvements to other people's, so I'm using that as an analogy that um, I can be a good demonstration of what I want to manifest in the world because ultimately I can't if I'm an inspiration for others, then that will probably rub off. You meet somebody with a smile or a snarl, it's a very different outcome, right? So
Absolutely.
so I think it's about how if I'm taking personal responsibility, then I have the choice to, even if I'm, grumpy or whatever it might be, right? Like, or some
Hmm.
calamity happens, I can address that with a sense of curiosity versus judgment. So if I'm going to make a judgment on
Hmm.
myself or on the situation, let it be one out of curiosity, and maybe the judgment is towards possibility versus the most worst imagined outcome.
Hmm.
And there's this idea that we might go through our life making all kinds of calamities in our heads, and some of them don't come true, and some of them do. So if we taking responsibility for what we're thinking, we might as well be, pausing a moment and reflecting about, well, what is it that I could bring? So if I see, uh, there's a situation where there's problems and I focus on that, I'm going to get more problems. And if I focus on the possibility and approaching life from this place of curiosity, then suddenly I have many more options available to me. Yeah. So it's the idea that I'm not going through my life with tunnel vision. I'm going with a very wide lens and I can see, oh, there's, all these different things or these different possibilities around me. Then I have actually lots of options to do something useful, do something good in the world.
So what you're saying is that there's a decision to be made that once
Yeah.
you encounter something negative, okay, let me give you an example. Okay, I love listening to podcasts. And some of the worst Tucker Carlson, I don't know if you guys know that in the United States,
Yeah.
but he's
I
he's
know
like a
him.
very popular then there's Candace Owens, all that. But they say a lot of negative things. But somehow I find myself drawn to them. I'm like
Mhm.
addicted to them. Is that a bad thing that I'm addicted to a lot of the negativity that they spew, or is it just something that I'm just wanting to enjoy because I want to learn? I wonder
Well,
about that.
yeah. And that's, yeah, I mean, I think it's a very individual thing. So I'd say, if I'd be sort of probably looking at the relationship to drama and saying, well, is there a part of me that enjoys the controversy or the drama?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah, yeah.
okay, well, do I want drama? Do I want to feed, this machinery with those
Hmm.
kinds of impressions? And or maybe the relationship to it is purely entertainment, right?
Well,
So,
I'll tell you
it could be
this.
both.
When I don't listen to them and I just listen to music on my way to work, I have a much better day.
Okay, well, there's your answer.
I
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah, yeah. So it's about choosing what you consume, right? And consumption isn't just what you choose to eat, and that's also obviously can affect your mood or your vibration. But it's also about what media you consume. Yeah. So
Mhm.
we all look at like what are the inputs, what are the outputs. So I'm putting something negative into my mind or
Mhm.
into my body. What's the output? I'm going to feel sluggish if it's something the wrong kind of food for my body, or if I'm engaging in gossip, or if I'm engaging in you know where people are roasting each other all day, like that's not so great either, right? So but it doesn't uplift your spirit. If anything, it creates more disturbance. So
Mhm.
again, we come back to this idea that um, you know if it's a temple, what are we putting in the temple?
Right.
Is it going to be beautiful? Is it going to be life-giving, or is it going to be destructive? Is it going to create chaos? Is it going to dull the senses?
Hmm.
So, all of this comes back to, living more mindfully, more consciously around what I'm wanting to entertain, the people I choose to be around, and, the company I like to keep, the thoughts I like to entertain. We can spiral pretty easily, right? We can be worried about the things that
Hmm.
we can't change. We can project into the future and imagine all kinds of scenarios that may not be so useful. Yeah. And the same thing, we can, or worry about the future, or we can lament the past, which we can't change. Yeah. So it's about like, okay, well, how do I support greater sense of kindness and love towards myself, forgive myself for my past because I
That's
can't
very
change.
powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
And then say, well, okay, I'm a almighty creator, and do I want to then be responsible for creating something meaningful in the world, or do I want to, get on the bandwagon of negativity and, putting other people down and therefore putting myself in that camp, right? So,
And I'm
yeah.
sorry. So my question to you is, what is the most common problem that most of your clients come to you with? I mean, what you're saying is fantastic. I think it's beautiful. It's about the internal stimuli and what we and how we can control that. I think it's beautiful, and I'm already fascinated by it. I'm getting ready to buy a book right now, and because I think what you're saying here resonates so perfectly. But what is what is your general client? I mean, who is your typical client and what are they looking for?
Well, I'd say most people are looking for happiness and a sense of peace or resolution. And yeah, I mean, obviously that's incredibly diverse, right? So everyone comes to do work in for different reasons and different outcomes. And sometimes people might want to do some inner work because they are looking for a certain outcome, but it may not necessarily be most aligned to their best interests. So I think when we embark upon our process of self-inquiry, sometimes what we came in for is not what we get, so you
Hmm.
know there's that saying, we get what we need, not necessarily we get what we want. That's a
Mm,
great
powerful,
song by Mick Jagger
powerful,
as well, right? You can't
powerful.
always get what you want, but sometimes you try real hard, you get what you
Hmm.
need. And I would say that, not to borrow Mick Jagger's words, but the idea is that the universe, with the wish of contribution or love, or to cultivate more joy in ourselves, then we'll get the medicine we need that will actually support our greater potential to be made manifest through the inquiry. Yeah? And we don't do that by just you know doing the same thing. We usually have to disrupt ourselves somehow, or life disrupts us, right? There's some illness or some calamity, or we separate from a relationship, or
Hmm.
some tragedy that
Yeah.
happens, and that's the thing we need to go, hang on, this path isn't where it needs to be. Yeah. Or maybe we have the good fortune to meet with a great inspiring teacher who says something,
Hmm.
and that changes our trajectory because we realize that what we're doing isn't really fruitful. And sometimes, we do need those knocks from the universe, yeah, knocking rather loudly on our door, saying, "Hey, wake up! There's this other way you could express yourself, or another way to be in the world." So
Hmm.
it's a very unique thing. And of course, if we're so caught up in the calamities of life, it's hard to then take note of what's really going on. And that's where, we say, well, then slow down, become aware, start thinking about your thinking, not just having the thoughts, but going that there's someone who's in charge of having, what's arising in the moment, and say, okay, well, do I make a choice here, or do I just kind of keep going along and hope for the best, right?
Right,
Um,
right. No, I understand. And you touched upon that. What if there was a tragedy? What if there was a disruption of right now I had to place my mother in hospice. That is a major distraction. But
mhm,
at the same time, I also look at the responsibilities I have. I have to take care of 200 kids. I got my own son I got to take care of.
yeah.
And so looking at that, I'm comforted knowing that, what my mom is going through is just a cycle of life. We're all going to go through
Yeah.
all that. She's 80 years old. She's diminished, but at the same time, I have a responsibility for myself and a responsibility for others. So
Mm.
that kind of brings me back into that path. And um, I'm sure you have a lot of client. I mean, you said like 14,000 or something like that. Is that how many client? But it's like crazy amount
No,
of.
that's the number of different modality or
Oh,
professions we
oh, okay.
represent.
Got it. Got it.
And I've had lots of different clients over the years, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's this idea of you know, recognizing that, it's a human condition for old age,
Hmm.
sickness, and death. It's
Hmm.
inevitable that these things will happen. So we can't really get out of that, right? But it's about how we meet those challenges and how we work with our minds
Mm,
to
beautiful.
navigate those challenging things. That's what we do have control over. So, one is that I'm empowered to work with my mind versus being the victim, or or like it's the other's fault, or so if I don't take responsibility, then it's always like I'm a victim of circumstance. I'm a
Right.
victim of the others or whoever or whatever, or the country or the situation that we see ourselves in. So
And
yeah,
and you really resonated me when you mentioned the two key words in the last minute or so, victim and responsibility. Taking
yeah,
that responsibility, and I would imagine that not a lot of people understand that. They let the victimness get to them, and they don't know how to do the responsibility of rescuing themselves.
yeah, and that's it. And if you're a victim, then you're doing three things really well. You're
Hmm.
doing you're uh, dealing with what in front of you often, and blame or justify the problem. Yeah, so it's not, therefore I'm not taking responsibility,
Hmm.
and I'm making excuses, I'm making justifications all the time, and so that doesn't give us a life of freedom. That gives us a life of living through victimhood. And
Hmm.
the flip side of that is if I'm being completely responsible for my actions, if I'm taking total ownership,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I'm being fully accountable for everything in my life, then we actually have the ability to live a life of freedom,
Hmm.
because we're no longer the victim. We're the person who says, well, actually, everything that occurs to me, good or bad, is my creation. Yeah. And
Well,
then I'm
that's
open to
hard.
challenge. It
That's
is
hard.
harsh.
That's a
It's,
hard one. And
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
have you experienced people actually getting angry when you say that?
Yeah, because they're very caught in the victim story. Yeah, because they want to defend that, because that's a very comfortable place where they don't have to be accountable or responsible or be owning uh, whatever calamity they see themselves in, because it's the other's fault, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
people are so heavily invested in, what I call the victim mentality, that they have no spaciousness to see that there's anything outside of it, right? And of
Right.
course, they want to defend the comfort they find in their misery. It's true.
That that's a very tough one. It's hard
Yeah.
to tell somebody, well, there's a car accident and it's your fault. So, I mean, they may say it, but I'm sure you don't say it exactly like that. Um,
No, no. I mean, look, so unfortunate circumstances can ripen, and we find ourselves in a really challenging situation. But again, we can take responsibility there. Well, here I am. Now what do I work with, rather than try to
but,
escape it or deny it, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, these are very extreme examples. And
mhm.
start where you are, start with what's in front of you, I think, and
Mhm.
um, work with what you can manage. Because again, if we're very much in victim, then we're very much usually in survival mode, and we're not able to have enough, energy to do anything other than focus on ourselves. When we
Mhm.
come from a greater place of freedom and responsibility, we tend to have more surplus, and so then we can focus on
Wow,
other
that's
people's.
powerful.
Yeah,
What you
we
just
we
said is
start to.
very powerful.
Yeah, so we have the ability to help others, and then we find that we have lots of useful work to do.
I would
So
imagine that it's hard to get to people to understand what you just said. I get it.
yeah,
But a lot of people, I guess beginners that you encourage to use your services wouldn't understand that and they'd question it.
it's an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I first.
and it shines a light on the greatest freedom that can be achieved.
Hmm.
So it's an invitation, to step through a door, uh, which obviously takes a certain level of courage in life.
So my
Um,
last question to you is because I'm
mm,
hearing, first of all, this is an amazing interview because I learned so much already. But there are the 12 laws of the universe. I'm sure you're aware of them. And so it seems like the one that resonates with you the most is the law of vibration. You mentioned vibration a lot.
yeah,
And so how does one control their vibration? And we'll end with that one.
yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, we can't really tune into what's going on if we're running around like crazy, right? So we got to
Right.
first slow down, pause, reflect, and tune into what's going on within us, and that means just being attuned to the body and what's vibrating in us, right? and
Mhm.
and And again, we can focus where the problems lie, or we can focus where potential lives. Yeah, and that might be that if I take my focus off my own personal problems and I start to have a focus around contribution of being service to others, or having this cultivating this quality, and even faking the quality of compassion, because it takes time, right, to really genuinely embody. Even starting that it is a process to creating more spaciousness in our mind, and then we have more useful things we can bring to the world. And again, so if we're focusing on our problems, we get problems. If we focus on contribution, we have opportunities for growth, we have opportunities for service to help others, and then our problems are not so important anymore.
That's beautiful. Focus on where potential lives. And
Hmm.
that's what I heard you say. That is just, I'm going to write that down somewhere I mean, that is so beautiful. So, Mr. Elliott, I want to thank you so much. This has been an amazing podcast. I've learned it's going to be hard for me to top this one, but you can all, anyways, everybody, you can go to lawrenceelliard.com, get his books. I definitely want you to get The Power of Water. And I forgot this one question. What we eat, that impacts us, doesn't it? What we eat? Like
For
you,
sure.
so the good fresh fruits, vegetables, I guess we've been hearing that for years, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, there's not a lot of new information out there on all
Yeah.
this stuff. It's like inputs, outputs. So
Yeah. So,
yeah, yeah. A lot of this stuff
all right.
is common sense. Yeah. So I think, choose what you consume with
Mm.
your thoughts, with your, in your body, whatever you feel is nourishing you, and you'll see the results, and then it's right for you or not.
All
So
right.
I think trust your good judgment with all those things.
And thank you so much, Mr. Elliott. It's fantastic. I really appreciate it. So this podcast will be available at Truth Seeking Souls, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. And well, what can I say? This has been a pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Okay, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Great to be on
Okay,
the show.
just stay.